Will Levis and have a 20-minute highlight video, you can accomplish your dreams. Okay? I just want to put that out there.
Attention. This is a podcast. Do not take this serious. We sure as shit don't. This podcast should not be considered professional advice or even 100% accurate. The information depicted in this podcast is for general information only, and reliance on this information is done so at your own risk.
Welcome back to the Kings of Shit Mountain. If you've stuck with us for one episode, get ready because it's just going to be a wild ride for episode 2. All right, I'm one of your hosts, Swagger. We're joined by Evil.
What's good in the hood? We're back, baby.
We're joined by Doc.
Glad we're not canceled yet.
Give it some time. And then lastly but not least, we are joined by Coach.
You should know with movies, the sequel is usually worse than the original, so get yourself prepared going forward.
Yeah, but in a dream scenario, there's going to be like 500 sequels and we're all going to be millionaires, remember?
Touche.
Except our Titan friend that never joined.
Yeah, I know.
He gets no money.
I got called out big time by my wife last week for making fun of him so much, but she's like, "Did you add the whip soundbite?" And I said, "No, that wasn't me, but it was a good touch."
I'm sure the editor appreciates that.
Anyways, boys, what's up? How's life? How's it going?
Things are good, man. We're one down. We're into 2. This is now a streak officially. You know, we're rolling. That's how we feel, right?
We are. I do have to give a sad comment though. Last week we had 8. Now we have 6. Rest in peace.
Gone but never forgotten. Yes,
Gone but never
my
forgotten.
testicles. That's right. Not ashamed to say on here, I'll open up to all of our multitude of listeners. I had a vasectomy. I am in some minimal pain, but I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in there, and actually hanging is what's killing me. I got to wear compression shorts for like a week. The nurse looked at me. She's like, "Gravity is not your friend." And I was like, well, that's not good.
Huh?
But anyways, enough about my testicles.
The 5 of you that are still here, we're done talking about genitalia. Thank you.
Oh, boy. We haven't been canceled yet. We sure as hell got canceled right there, boys.
It's a medical procedure. Come on.
All right, move on.
Since we last saw you, we've had a ton of NFL news, especially in the AFC South. We've got trades from South teams to other South teams. We've got a lot of cuts, a lot of big name players out on the market. So you know what? I'll just take it first since they are the absolute worst franchise in history. I'll start us off with the Jags. So we trade Christian Kirk to the Texans for a 7th round pick. I didn't hate to see Christian Kirk go. I really appreciated what he did. He kind of spurred that offense and was Trevor Lawrence's number 1 guy there for a little bit. To trade him in division, I'm not a huge fan of, but you get a pick out of it. I'm trying to trust the process of our babyface GM and let him do what he wants to do, but I'm not huge on that. Another one, Mitch Morse retires, right? Okay. Played every game for the Jags that he was on. He's gone. We'll find a center, whatever.
Bye-bye.
I will say that I am also happy that we cut Duvernay and Darby because those were signings last year that I was just shocked by. The one that hurt me and I think hurt a lot of Jaguars fans was Evan Ingram. He had the resurgence when he came into Jacksonville. Became an elite tight end, really was basically like a wide receiver. And so you hate to see him go. I hope that he is able to go somewhere and do well. But, yeah, that was a painful one, I think, for a lot of Jags fans, especially after a lot of the good things he's done. But, again, you have to try and trust that process, right? So what about what about the Houston Texans getting Christian Kirk? What are they thinking about that over there in Houston?
For what they gave up for Kirk, a 7th round pick, which, that might as well be magic beans. If you can get a 3rd receiver out of that, for what Kirk's been able to do in the past. I mean, I'll be the first one. When he signed with the Jags for that contract, I laughed. I mean, I did wholeheartedly. And he proved me wrong. He was awesome. So if you can get 60 to 70% of that as a number 3 receiver, which is what he'll be behind Nico, and if you can get Tank Dell back at all in the season, the one thing this does signal is that Stephon Diggs is gone. And I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a second, so you're going to have to let me ramble, okay? Stephon Diggs is a prick. And I'm happy that this means you get traded away from Minnesota, where you were phenomenal. You get traded away from Buffalo and Josh Allen, where he was phenomenal with there, and Josh Allen might as well be, a pretty solid dude. I think Stephon Diggs is a legitimate prick, and I'm happy that his time is done in Houston. And you can go ahead and say whatever you want about me for that, but I'm happy he's gone. And I'm happy that they've got a guy who, if he can stay healthy, could be a number 3 receiver. And then you can draft somebody. If you can get Nico, Tank Dell, Christian Kirk, and a drafted receiver, I think that is a solid receiving group there. And then the other big news in Houston is the cutting of Shaq Mason. Solid for a couple of years, but man, it's time for him to go. And it just shows you more the consistent need that they're going to have for interior offensive line in the draft and free agency. And then the last thing, the Al-Shaair restructure, it just goes to show you folks, the cap's not real. It's not. People will tell you about the Illuminati and Area 51, all those things that people think are real or Bigfoot. The thing that's not really real that people talk about, the cap. The cap's fake. All you got to do is restructure, cut, and this proves it. So the Texans could be able to make a lot of moves going forward. Let's throw it to the Colts. And,
I'm going to cut in real quick because this is going to be a recurring thought for me. But Al-Shaair deserves zero money. And that's not because he nearly killed Trevor Lawrence. That's because he came out and apologized about it. He's like, I'm not that kind of player. And then you go back and look at his entire time in Houston, basically his entire time in the NFL. He is the dirtiest dude. Forearm shivs, hitting guys late. And he's like, oh, no, I don't do that stuff. That dude deserves zero money.
As a great man once famously said, you need some criminals to play this sport. So that's all I'm going to say.
That's a great one right there. All right. I'm sorry, Evil. Take us away, Colts.
No, you guys had me at criminals, man. I love them. I went Louisville, Kentucky, right?
I was going to say, this isn't Louisville anymore,
Bobby P, baby. I mean, we had Charlie Strong kind of fix some things, which was great. Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Two Gloves, Lamar Jackson coming out. But sometimes I do think it is too much. The hit on Trevor Lawrence, we all talk about that. No one deserves to be. I thought he died on the field. I legitimately thought he died on the field. And I think if it continues to go that path, if he keeps hitting the people the way he's hitting, he's going to kill somebody. And he's going to be like, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, bro.
No. Okay. Anyway, I digress. Biggest move Colts made, releasing Raekwon Davis. Cool. Save some more money. For what? Who are we going to sign? DJ? Daniel Jones? I don't want Daniel Jones. Who wants Daniel Jones? New York Giants don't want Daniel Jones. Minnesota Vikings don't want Daniel Jones. I don't want Daniel Jones. Doc mentioned that last week. There's a quarterback battle coming in Indy. Who are we going to get? Obviously, AR's there, the competition anyway. I saw some reports coming out. Daniel Jones, Trey Lance, maybe. Sam Darnold looks promising, but I think Sam Darnold is going to end up going to the Seahawks and taking the Seahawks to the playoffs. We'll talk about that maybe later, but that's my hot take for now. But I do think our biggest question now is we have some more money freed up. I think we bumped up from 32-ish, and now we're a little over $41 million in cap space. So we got some money to play with, but who are we going to get? I don't know. And I think we're going to see some pieces fall. I hope to God we're done with old people.
Wow.
I don't want Aaron Rodgers.
Nope.
I don't want Shaq Mason.
Nope.
I know we just lost a defensive tackle, so D-line guy makes sense, but I don't know, man. It's frustrating to see us just continue to get these old guys to fit in for a year or two when they don't do anything. We had Joe Flacco, quarterback, and Matt Ryan before him. It's just, I'm tired of these old people. Call me ageist, call me whatever you want to call me, but don't call me wrong and don't call me a liar. So that's all I got to say.
And of course, last but not least, the Tennessee Titans.
Okay. I do got to start off by saying that last week I said on here I'm a Packers fan. What? I knew nothing about the Titans. What? And I came out and probably made all the Titans fans mad by saying they need everything.
All 7 Titans fans were very upset with.
Well, I just want to say that I did a bunch of research this week, just so that all the Titans fans aren't mad at me. And I looked into it, and they still need everything. I was correct on that stance. So that was not wrong. The only real news that's coming out of Tennessee is that we released linebacker Harold Landry. We were going to have to pay him like $17.5 million. Got rid of him. He's not worth that much. Other than that, I think we signed Keon Coburn, the defense tackle, or defensive lineman, and then Otis Reese. Pretty much the only thing we've done. Now, there's a lot of chatter around the draft and all that, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the rest of the league, and Evil, you kind of touched on it, but there were a lot of big name players getting cut with Bosa, Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers, Tyler Lockett, Jonathan Allen. I mean, these are guys that, have been staples, have been names for a long time. And then, I mean, I don't want to go too far ahead because I think when we talk about free agency here in a second and trades and everything, there's some big name guys on that trade market. And that's kind of, to me, always symbolizes that's the end of their stardom. Not necessarily that they won't go and be a productive member wherever they land at, but that, they're not who they were. And we're not talking about massive rebuilds with some of these teams. We're talking about, guys that are just looking to get rid of cap space. And I know, Coach, you said cap ain't real, but I mean, in Madden, it's really hard to trade for all the best players with the cap restrictions. So
Madden is definitely real life, so you're definitely
100%.
you're on
Exactly.
100% there.
So let's talk about this a little bit with the free agency market. Talking about, and we touched on this last week too. If you do your diligence and you do your work in the free agent market, you really don't have to look at some of those spots as a draft. And so I'm going to start off here with some interesting takes. Okay. I'm going to start off by saying I've heard a lot about DK Metcalf possibly to the Jags. I don't buy it. I do think we're more likely to see a T. Higgins in Jacksonville. But I will say that today, as I was holding my frozen bag of peas on my swollen testicles, I have an inkling about a couple things. And I talked about this guy last week as far as a rookie. I can never pronounce his name right. Terriota McMillan out of Arizona. It would not surprise me to see him go at number 5 if he's sitting there, especially if the Jags can do a little bit of work in free agency or trade around for some good DBs, because they do need the DB help. And I know they were talking about Mason Graham, and of course, if Carter's there at 5, you really have to take him. But it wouldn't surprise me now to see that stud out of Arizona come out and be a solid number 2 and another great deep threat. And he can catch the ball and move in space. We watch Big 12 games, majority of us West Virginia fans here. That dude, I mean, he single-handedly almost beat West Virginia when they played. And so I was very impressed. I wanted to follow him a little bit, but I would love to see him in some black and teal personally. But again, the big money shot, if you will, I think for Jacksonville is going to be Travis Hunter. But the free agents market, I mean, it's a hit or a miss, right? Jacksonville has been famous for the last few years of just absolutely shelling out everything for their free agents. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't think we'll play around in the free agent market as much. I think we see more trades with our new GM and our whole new front office staff. But I don't know. What other free agent needs do you guys need? Let's start in Tennessee. Obviously, you need everything, but are there some free agents that you're really targeting here?
I honestly do not think that Tennessee is going to be that active in free agency. Their new GM also is big into drafting. I know this is his first job, but he comes from the same tree of just drafting and just developing people. I have heard that we need, like free agents wise, like right tackle help. I don't know who's all out there. I've heard Moses from the Jets could possibly get him. And then also, I've also heard like Nick Bolton for linebacker help from Kansas City. I've heard that name passed around a little bit, so wouldn't be surprised with either of those.
And tackle market's going to be a little bigger now. Ronnie Stanley got signed today to an extension in Baltimore. He was going to be that top tackle, so those guys leave costs even more going forward.
What about Houston? Any big free agents that you're targeting up there?
Again, I've harped on the interior offensive line. I know it's not sexy, and nobody's going to like hearing, draft and free agent talk about offensive and defensive line. But when you give up all those pressures and you can't score in the red zone, it's what you need. So I got 2 names that I think you're going to see Houston go after hard, and they're going to come away with at least one of them. There's my hot take for the week. One of them, your guard from Detroit, Kevin Zeitler, a solid offensive lineman, interior guy, can play either left or right side. And then maybe a little interdivision stealing. One Will Fries from the Indianapolis Colts. I think that could be the.
Keep your hands off my food, man. You don't touch another man's food.
I tell you what, that's gonna be the big move. Somebody is gonna sign Will Fries. He's gonna be a solid addition to an offensive line this year. If it does not Indy, I sure hope it's gonna be Houston. And then the last one that again, the Texans are kind of against the cap. I know I just said the cap's fake, and it is, but they have to do some restructuring to get around it. But I would check in on Jonathan Allen. I would love to see the Texans build up front, offense and defensive line, just like Philly did. And I think Jonathan Allen would be a great addition to that interior defensive line. So if you can bring in one of those guards and then bring in Jonathan Allen, and then you add one more offensive lineman interior from this the draft, I think that's a great start to an offseason. So Zietler, Fries, or one, and I'd check in on Allen. That's where I'm going if I'm Houston.
All right. Indy?
Well, sadly, French fries are no longer being served in Indianapolis. Will Fries is out. He's not coming back. I think Ryan Kelly's the next domino to fall. I touched on it last week too. I think Ryan Kelly's a guy we gotta sign. He wanted to test the market. I'm hoping no one touches his fat ass and he wants to come back home. That's what I'm hoping. He's got a lovely kid, a beautiful wife, nice house. Just stay put. You're good. This is home. We're safe here. We're safe. Well, realistically, I don't see us being active in free agency either, man. I think it's just going to be another waste of a couple months. I think I kind of looked over the available cornerbacks right now. They're all old. I think the youngest one out there is Asante Samuel Jr. But I feel like he was a rookie like 2 years ago, and I don't see us signing someone in the secondary. I think the biggest thing we can do is maybe make a trade. And I think what we could really, really use is DeForest Buckner could really help get some good help, get us that kid out of Cincinnati, get us Hendrickson. That is apply pressure. That's what we need to do. Make the jobs in the secondary a little easier. But again, I don't see anything happen. I think we're going to just sit on $41 million. So Jim Irsay, if you're listening, I'd gladly take some of that money. We'll all take some of that money. We'll help promote the Colts in this beautiful podcast. But again, I think we're just going to sit here and hire some old ass wannabes that used to be somebody. That's my take.
A couple big names we didn't throw out there. Josh Sweat out of the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles. Another one with Milton Williams.
He'd be a good fit with Tennessee.
Well, I think from what you're telling us, anybody would be a good fit in Tennessee.
Well, I know, but if we're going to get Abdul Carter anyways.
Yeah, I mean that would be a dangerous twosome if you bring Sweat in there. Again, another one, only 25 years old, Milton Williams. I mean, he was on the Super Bowl team, so I mean, obviously he's got some kind of recurrence. I like, I touched on maybe playing with the free agency market for the Jags, looking at DBs. There's not a lot of DBs in the market that really excite me all that much. I mean, you look at DJ Reed out of New York, possibly, but he's getting up there in age. Javon Holland out of Miami is somebody that we can take a look at, especially if the Jags don't re-sign Andre Sisco to that safety spot. But yeah, there's a couple big names out there that I think we didn't touch on. Cam Robinson. Maybe Cam Robinson makes a return to the Jags. Who knows? But
Swagger, I think if you listen to kind of what everybody was saying as we kind of all went around and talked about our teams, I think the one thing you noticed that everybody mentioned, like nobody has any faith that any of their front office is going to pony up for anybody of value. I mean, we talked about mid-level offensive linemen and low depth players here and there, and that's great. But I mean, who's going to pony up for Josh Sweat and Milton Williams? I don't think anybody feels that. I have a lot of faith. I mean, you guys tell me. As much as I think Zietler, Fries, Allen are great guys, but does anybody have any faith their front office is going to make a lot of moves?
Not at all. And I think part of it too is you have a few, you have a very select few high-level targets that you want to go after. Most of those targets are trade targets. They're not free agents. They're hitting the market. But the guys that are free agents that have some stuff with it are still a little older, right? Like they have some wear and tear on their bodies. And I think that turns away a lot of our teams because we're all, let's be real, we are perpetually rebuilding, especially Tennessee. That's just a common phrase up there. But every one of us, even the Texans, a little bit, right? Like it's only recently this newfound success with CJ Stroud. Everybody, you're just now getting into your home. You just got your permits approved. You opened the door for the first time. My rebuild is over. But hold on, you see that storm coming? It looks blue. It's got a horseshoe in it too. We're gonna come tear down that shit, right? I don't know. Probably not, because that storm is probably going to tear away from the snow trail our owners leave. And you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if we signed some 31-year-old cornerback out of some shitty ass university in the middle of nowhere, West Virginia, who had zero interceptions last season, who now is the free market. I wouldn't be surprised if he's on our team. I'm talking about Rasul Douglas, by the way, for those people who don't know. Pride and joy.
We're not going to stand for the Rasul Douglas on here. That's unacceptable in my opinion. But I digress, and I will argue back with you and just tell you that a lot of these guys on a free agency tracker, there's young guys. I mean, obviously the young guys are at the top of the list. Like you said, you don't want these guys to, you don't want to bring in a 34-year-old Khalil Mack, but there are some young guys that you could quite possibly bring in.
But I think a lot of the young guys already got re-signed. Like the kid the defensive lineman out of Dallas, he got re-signed. Zach Braun out of Philly, he's re-signed. And who else? Franchise tag. We got Trey Smith in Kansas City, and right now T. Higgins. I know he's got the franchise tag too, but right now, those are the guys. I think those are the guys you wanted. I think the biggest payday so far is the tackle out of Baltimore. He got some money.
3 for 60. Yep.
Yeah, and he's 30. He's 30 years old.
He was one of the top free agent markets. I think, and you hit it on a great evil. Tennessee. Does anybody think they're going to be, even if they go out and make a great draft pick, and they sign a bunch of guys, are they going to win 9 or 10 games a year? Does anybody feel that way? I don't. So if you're that front office, are you going to go out and make those moves to try to get to that? No. If you're the Jags with a new head coach, are you going to go out and throw around a bunch of money to try to get to 9 or 10 wins? I don't know if that's going to happen. The Colts, you got to figure out what's going on at the quarterback. The only team I think might actually make some moves to try to improve is the Texans. But again, with your cap situation, again, you got to restructure a bunch to get to that point. I don't know. It's this whole kind of crap, right?
There's a lot of money in Jacksonville. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm more willing to think that trade targets might look their way, especially with our GM coming from LA, where that's what they did. But yeah, I think that there's teams that, I mean, we all need something, right? But are you willing to shell out that money, especially with this perpetual rebuild that you've talked about there, Evil? But let's talk about that. Any trade targets that really excite you guys? Let's start in Indy.
Again, Trey Hendrickson, man. I think we need a line. I'm a big D-line guy. What I do say is I do think we need a good, solid D-line. You look at the highlights of Indy. We talk about the glory days, what brings us hope. We had Robert Mathis on one side, Dwight Freeney on the other. Sack attack. That's what we need. We need that back. That's where it starts. I think you have a good O-line. You have a good running game. You're gonna win 8 games if you have a good line, just straight up. And I think we got to solidify that defensive line first. That's my opinion.
What about in Houston?
Obviously they've already made a trade with the Christian Kirk move, so bringing in another receiver I think is awesome. The guys that you see as trade targets, I just don't see them ponying up or wanting to pony up enough for. Hendrickson, I'd pass on. You've got a solid D-line on the edges right now. Metcalf is going to be way too much. Kupp, he's kind of, Kirk. Obviously, he's been better than Christian Kirk, but that's 2 aging receivers. No way they're touching Myles Garrett. So unless there's some, Nick Casario is a solid GM. If he can kind of finagle something and bring in some help for an extra offensive lineman, but you've already seen some old linemen move, I think they stay away from the trade market. I really do.
And you mentioned Myles Garrett. Cleveland's not getting rid of him. No, and I think they've come out and said that. They're not getting rid of him. They'd be stupid to. It's the only good player they have left.
No, but it's like what does he do? Does he do this new age thing where it's like, well, if you're not going to train me and give me what I want, then I'm not going to play? And nobody wants to see that. And that's just going to tarnish Myles Garrett's legacy more than his attempted murder on Mason Rudolph. So, I mean,
And just because someone can request a secret trade doesn't mean they're going to get the trade. Doesn't mean they're going to get even a request or what the team wants. Because it may be the player may want to get out of there, but it's up to the team to really sign the dotted line. And I don't see any team really letting go of high quality players.
Do you want a player on your team though that does not want to be there?
No,
I think it
absolutely
depends
not.
I think it depends on the position.
no.
Because I think it depends. I think if you got a guy who's going to be in a contract year, who doesn't want to be there anymore, he may put up numbers. He may try to get out.
Or he turns into the Jimmy Butler situation where he just sits and says, "You better trade me," and causes all sorts of problems. So I'm with Doc. I think if he's a malcontent, he's a problem. You gotta get him out.
I'd love to grab a beer with Jimmy Butler. He would be great for this podcast. Side point.
There's guys we could absolutely trade for. I mean, I'm always holding my breath for that Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow swap, but that's probably not going to happen.
Got Daniel Jones coming in.
Yeah, Daniel Jones. Okay, I think just to add more fuel to the fire, I think we're going to see Kirk Cousins in a Tennessee Titans uniform. I got to tell you.
Do you? Okay.
I do. I feel like it is because and let's look at this logically, right? If I'm the Titans right now, if I'm any team that needs a quarterback in this draft, I am not excited about Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders. I mean, they're talking about Shadur Sanders like slipping all the way down to number 3. And if we were originally comparing him in the top 2 quarterbacks with him and Cam Ward, then how much Cam Ward can't be that much better, right? And you also are getting some of that Anthony Richardson syndrome with Cam Ward quitting on his team. So, in my opinion, you wait for a quarterback, you wait for a great quarterback draft, bring in a veteran. Okay. Kirk Cousins, I mean, Atlanta's got to move on from him. So
I think Kirk Cousins is a great fit for one reason and one reason alone. Kirk Cousins performs fantastic for 1:00 games. Cannot perform for primetime games. And Tennessee has 0 primetime games. You're basically going to go undefeated. Solid. Done.
Hey. Tennessee and Jacksonville always get a Thursday night matchup, okay? Thank you very much.
I apologize. I'm so sorry. I offended 13 people on this podcast right now.
Yeah, all 13 of our listeners are very upset by that. But, I mean, there's not huge names that are, expected to be traded. I mean, I think we all ultimately see one of those blockbuster trades come through. And I think if Kirk Cousins doesn't end up in Tennessee, Aaron Rodgers could quite possibly be the next guy in Tennessee. Tennessee seems like a state that would be against the vaccination thing too. So bring him.
You get a receiver with him too.
Do what?
So you get a receiver with him too. Devontae's coming with him. So.
It's a package deal. It's like interviewing in Step Brothers, right? We're here to F shit up. Yeah, that's what they do, and it's either a good way they F shit up or a bad way that they do it. So, but any other trade targets that jump out at you? Especially maybe coming out of Houston, or not coming out of Houston, but going back into Houston.
No, like we said, I don't see the Texans sending a lot away. I don't think they have the resource. They have the resources, draft pick wise. But where you're at right now, you're on top of the division. I think you stand pat on the trade market. You hit free agency. You nail the draft. Continue to build up your offensive and defensive line and get CJ Stroud back to where he was year 1. Get him some confidence, time, and allow him to make moves in the backfield, make plays, and get back to that 11-12 win mark you were a couple years ago.
What it comes back down to is the reason this podcast is called Kings of Shit Mountain is because it's all shit, right? We all need help. We could all trade for a bunch of people, but there's a couple guys out there that just aren't nobody really jumps out at the page as somebody who's really going to be an eligible target. I think your free agency market this year is something that's going to be much more exciting for you.
You made a good point. I think we're all on this shit mountain together. We don't know what the hell is going on. We don't know what's going on in these front offices, because if we did, we'd be doing a lot better mentally and emotionally. Yeah. And I do think, though, it wouldn't surprise me if we had a decent player on each of these teams traded at the last second, right before the draft, in the draft, and one thing that comes to mind, you talk about D-line, you want to maybe do it internally here, your Armstead kid, or man, I think he's old now.
He's like 40, so yeah.
See, I could see Tennessee or Indy picking him up because, we love the old guys. So
I mean, yeah, I think there's quite possibly, especially with Jackson. Again, this new GM comes from LA. LA's been known to be trading around and jumping in the free agency market and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I could see some trades coming out of Jacksonville. I hope it's not one of our studs, a Foye Aluakon, or God forbid he would lose the entire franchise if he traded Josh Hines Allen. So I don't think you're going to see anything huge like that jump out. But I tell you, one guy that you may want to look out to be traded out of Jacksonville is Travis Etienne. And I say that only because running backs, we talked about it last week, they're a dime a dozen in a lot of instances. I know it's coming back a little bit, but, Tank Bigsby had an incredible season for the Jags. Is he an RB1 material yet? I don't think so. If you can bring in another guy to kind of support him, then you have a decent running game. But, man, I tell you what, it could be an interesting draft day for the Jacksonville Jaguars, especially if they're getting rid of some of these guys right now. It could be very interesting to see them say, like, all right, how else can we make people in Jacksonville sad? Because ultimately that is the number one goal of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Any other trades? Huh? Joe Burrow to Jacksonville? Yeah.
Not happening.
Yeah.
yeah, Lamar Jackson's coming to Indy. That's what I heard.
Yeah. I've been
Stay
playing.
hold on once.
I've been playing around with it in Madden. I can't rebuild it. Let's just bring Gardner Minshew back.
Oh, hey, he's a free
He
agent.
is free, yeah.
Here's my hot take of the week. I would rather have Gardner Minshew than Trevor Lawrence.
The hot take.
You're officially canceled off of that one, boys. That's about the worst take you can make.
It's a true take. Little Minshew magic. Maybe that's all we need.
How'd that Minshew graduate go in Vegas for him?
Well, that's because he was in Vegas. Okay.
You go to Vegas to
home.
die. Yeah.
Anyways, so with all the horrible players and teams and things and decisions and GMs and coaches to come out of all of these horrible franchises, I thought it might be fun to play a little game. And that game is called Shit Mountain Rushmore. Who would be the epitome from each team to be on a Mount Rushmore style representation of the AFC South? And I'm not talking about your Fred Taylors and your Peyton Mannings, all right, your Andre Johnsons, your Eddie Georges. No, I'm talking about guys that are the epitome of why this is Shit Mountain. So let's start off with the Houston Texans, the youngest team in the NFL. Who is going to sit at the top of Shit Mountain Rushmore for the Houston Texans?
I've got some honorable mentions to hit off of. Everybody else will know this one and think that Brock Osweiler would be the guy you would go with as the rep, and makes sense. Terrible contract, was awful. Had to give up draft picks to trade him away. Bad, right? Totally makes sense. Deshaun Watson. Need I say more? We know what happened there. Post, going off to some massages and totally taking the franchise after that. I'm going to throw out a name that has been forgotten by people that don't know the Texas franchise. Anybody know the name Jack Easterby? Does that ring a bell to anybody in this podcast group?
Oh, he's the guy that invented penicillin.
Yes. Yeah. Good. Hey, good try. I know you like history, but unfortunately, this one not yours. Okay. So let me spin you a little web here. Okay. So Jack Easterby used to be the former chaplain for the New England Patriots after the Aaron Hernandez situation. You all know what happened with Aaron Hernandez, right? Made a TV show about it. Okay. So Jack Easterby was all about trying to change the culture, bringing good people back, trying to change the image of the Patriots. And he does such a decent job that when Bill O'Brien becomes head coach in Houston, he wants to bring in old Jackie Boy to help out with the franchise. He's got some offers from the Dolphins or some college teams. He decides to go to Houston. Well, not only is he the chaplain when he joins Houston, he basically becomes director of player personnel. He's firing people left and right. He lets go of PR people, equipment people, strength people. It gets so bad that J.J. Watt had to step up on Twitter and tell the franchise, what the hell are you doing? And totally set the franchise so far back that it took until Nick Caserio finally retook control to get things back on track. So I know my Texans fans that know the franchise well, like Jack Easterby is a stain on the organization, and he deserves to be the representative. And if you don't believe me, go check out the Sports Illustrated article, Jack Easterby's rise to power and the chaos that followed. Beautiful article. I mean, this guy was an absolute power-hungry dude and set the Texans franchise back multiple years. So Jack Easterby, you are the representative for the Texans on Shit Mountain Rushmore.
Interesting. I like the deep dive there. Okay, let's. Who would you put up there, Evil, for the Texans?
For the Texans, oh shit! I think one thing you got to take a look, and you got to take a look back. You know, I think, Coach, did you say Derek Carr? Was that one of the first names? You said maybe.
I said Osweiler, but I know people will get Derek Carr a lot of crap, but he had some issues. But you speak your truth, buddy. Speak your truth.
I was going to stand up for Derek Carr. I think, being the very first draft pick
David Carr.
David Carr. What did I say? Derek Carr.
Where's our fact checker? Where's our fact checker?
Come on, fact checker. Do your job. David Carr. Thank you. Thank you, Swagger. I appreciate it. No. Yeah. So Carr. I was going to blame him. The first guy to come to mind. You know what? He's your very first draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
You have nothing. You have this guy who has all this talent, could be a Peyton Manning, could be a Jim Sorgi. Who knows? But we'll never find out because he has no line to protect him. I think at the time, and even for years, he was the most sacked quarterback in NFL history.
Mm-hmm.
And the most sacked quarterback in it. That's like me playing quarterback. I think when you take a look at the problematic issues that the Houston Texans had, you got to look at the very beginning. And I think what you got to look at is who ran the shit, who ran the show. Because look, and correct me if I'm wrong, Swag, Jacksonville did all right towards the beginning of their career, at the beginning of their franchise.
Yep.
Baltimore Ravens, they did pretty all right. Why couldn't the Houston Texans? So I'm going to blame Charlie Casserly, first GM ever for the Houston Texans. Couldn't get his shit together. Could not figure out how to get the job done. Made the team look so bad that you don't want to have no veteran's going to want to come and join the team. No young guy is going to interview well during the combine or answer your questions the way you want to hear them, because no kid wants to come play for a team that you're going to win 3, 4, 5 games year in and year out. And I don't know how long it took the Houston Texans to actually win double-digit games. I don't have that stat in front of me. But my guess, it took a long time. And I blame the very beginning. The root of the issue is the first GM, Charlie Casserly.
All right. Doc, what say you of the Texans on Shit Mountain Rushmore?
Well, I know the first two of you went non-players, so I thought I would go player, but not one that really Houston drafted or anything, but probably one of the biggest busts that they ever made a deal to get. And as a Green Bay fan, I know this well, is Ahman Green. They signed him for $23 million, and he only played for 2 seasons, being beat out by Steve Slayton. So I think he definitely deserves to be on the Shit Mountain.
I love it. I'm going to stick with the player thing too here for the Houston Texans. But the guy who's going to represent the Houston Texans on Shit Mountain Rushmore is actually a Hall of Famer, an NFL Hall of Famer. Let me take you all the way back to 2002. The Houston Texans, brand new football team. All right, get the expansion draft. They select one Tony Boselli from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tony Boselli, hindered by injuries so bad he never played a down for the Texans. And that is the epitome of why they should be on Shit Mountain. You put all your shots right there. You put all your chips on the table to take a guy who was had a Hall of Fame career before that point, never plays it down for your team. Tony Boselli is on Shit Mountain Rushmore as a Texan, not as a Jaguar, our first Hall of Famer. All right, now our assistant GM, vice president of football operations, whatever bullshit title they gave him, I'm all about it. All right, love me some Jaguar Tony Boselli. Hate me some Texan Tony Boselli. All right, let's go to Indy. Indy, who Evil, who's going to represent Indy up on Shit Mountain Rushmore?
So I got some honorable mentions myself, right? And because I picked front office guy for Texans, I promise you I will pick a player for my Mount Rushmore of the Indianapolis Colts. But let's do my honorable mentions, and then let's talk about the front office. First and foremost, we had one of the greatest coaches of all time, Tony Dungy, invented the Tampa 2. Fantastic defense. One of the basics in almost every playbook you can find in any Pee Wee league, all the way up to high school football nowadays.
Skeletor.
What happened after Tony Dungy? A waste of space. A guy who could not take the great leftovers of the 2006 Super Bowl world champion Indianapolis Colts and destroy themselves in the 2009 Super Bowl against New Orleans Saints. Jim Caldwell, honorable mention. Could not coach, is not a good coach. I think he had some time in Detroit afterwards. I think he had one more gig after that. I don't know where he is now, but I blame him for a lot of the troubles we're sitting in today. Who else do I blame for troubles we're sitting in today? The guy who hired him, Jim Irsay. His dad, absolute huge piece of shit. Took the Baltimore Colts literally overnight. Didn't tell the band to show up for practice the next day. They still showed up to the stadium in Baltimore. The team was halfway to Indy. His son had the same genetic shit DNA. He does not listen to the issues going on internally. If he did, I think we would have a hell of a lot different season this past year alone, let alone the past 10. There are two other guys I'll bring up. A guy I'd like to really share a beer with and talk some piss poor parlays with. Art Schlechtler. One of the few men, and probably know many people know who he is. One of the few men drafted, but I think he played a total of 12 or 13 games in the NFL because he got kicked out because he had a gambling problem. More like a losing problem, because if he was winning, he would still be in the league. Drafted in the 80s, I think, by the Colts. Kicked out. Couldn't do anything. I think he was accused of throwing games. I'm not too sure. It's not a big deal. But that was in the 80s. That was before all our listeners were born. The last real person who belongs on this person, and this is the guy who's going to win this nomination, Jeff George. 1990 quarterback, drafted by the Colts. Absolute waste of freaking space. Could not do anything. You know who hired him? Jim Irsay. Or drafted him, I'm sorry. But he fought with players, fought with his teammates, fought with staff, fought with coaching, could not do anything right. I think he threw 46 interceptions and 43 touchdowns in his 3-year career in Indy or something like that. I don't know. It was horrible, abysmal. Without him, though, between him and Peyton, we had like 6 years of absolute hell. And luckily, Peyton came in, turned the franchise around, and here we are today. But again, Jeff George, probably the worst player, worst draft pick the Colts have ever made.
All right, I'll jump in here. My pick for the Colts would be Hank Baskett. And you're sitting there and you're saying, who the hell is Hank Baskett? Hank Baskett is the, what was he, wide receiver, tight end?
If you want to call it that.
Hank Baskett is the guy who botched the onside kick in the Super Bowl against the Saints. I mean, you got Peyton Manning. You recover that ball, that game's over. It's over. But you can't recover an onside kick as a guy who's supposed to catch the ball. That is the epitome of that. And yeah, you can sit back and say, well, at least they were in the Super Bowl. Do your job, man. Do your freaking job.
Hold on. I do want to say Hank Baskett real quick. He was probably so focused on his smoke show of a hot wife, Kendra, from the Playboy Bunnies. I don't blame him for dropping that ball. So I give him a little bit of
that's even more reason, in my opinion, for him to be up on that mountain. Can you imagine how much old she got? Like, wow, my Lord. All right.
Okay. So my pick that I came up with is probably a player that also Evil has no clue who he is, being a Colts fan. Evil, do you know who the first draft pick that they picked when they went in Indianapolis, when they moved to Indianapolis?
I do not
Yeah, but
know.
Leonard Coleman. He was
Leonard
a corner out of Vanderbilt. He didn't even play his first year. They didn't come to terms with his contract, so he went to the USFL. Yep. And then he finally did come back and signed with the Colts, played one season. That's his career. So not a very good first draft pick.
His
Coach.
Wikipedia is smaller than the shit I took 20 minutes ago.
Oh, yeah.
Coach, who for the Colts?
You guys brought up some good names. I love the Jeff George callback. That's awesome. But there is one man who is responsible for the current state of the Colts. And the things that he did at the end of his career have impacted and rubbed off on your current quarterback, Anthony Richardson, and the fact that
Don't
he
you say
decides
it.
to tap out early. It's
Don't you say it.
Andrew
Don't you
Luck.
say it. No.
It's 100% Andrew Luck. You guys tanked for Andrew Luck. You sucked for Luck. You sucked so hard and so long for him to tap out early. And now it's happening again with Anthony Richardson. The Colts are nothing but let's play for 3 quarters and then tap out at the end. Whether it's Luck, Richardson, or Peyton Manning throwing an interception to lose a Super Bowl, you guys tap out early. It's nobody else. It's Andrew Luck. Put him on the mountain.
Andrew Luck deserves all. Okay, I want to make a point. Last podcast, I did a disservice to this country. I did not stand up for the greatest mascot of all time, Blue. I apologize. I did not stand up for baseball when it was shitted on. I apologize. I am sorry, but I will stand up for Andrew Luck and be a good American, as I should be, to stand up for the fact that Andrew Luck did everything he could, everything he should have, everything he was able to do before he could no longer take it because of how horrible the internal workings of the Colts are. I don't blame Andrew Luck. It is not his fault. If we had better protection for him, it'd be a whole nother thing. Andrew Luck is a man of the people. Andrew Luck is one of the greatest Colts of all time. And you need to take those words out of your mouth and get that shit out of here.
There's only one word I use for somebody that taps out early. It's called a quitter.
All right, well, I'll jump to Jacksonville here. You know, we've talked about players, we've talked about front office personnel, we've talked about all kinds of things, right? To me, the epitome of the garbage franchise that my Jacksonville Jaguars are is the fudging pool that they put in the stadium. If you can condense the pool and put it there, that's what deserves to be up there for the Jaguars. What are we going to spend all this money on, guys? I don't know. Should we bring in some awesome coaches? Nah. Maybe a good training staff? No. You want to revamp the stadium? Yeah, we could revamp the stadium instead of give it to good players or restructure contracts. You know what we should do? I got it. Let's put a pool in there. And I don't know if you know this about Jacksonville, Florida, but Jacksonville, Florida is not Miami, Florida. All right? It is country. There are some big old people in that pool. Let me tell you. All right? And the fact that I got to see it every time the game is on, and that pool just reminds me of how much I hate my beloved Jaguars. So, yes, the Jacksonville Jaguars stadium pool is up there on Shit Mountain Rushmore. Doc, who for the Jags?
I'm going to go away from my players and go with something different. And I know you're going to love this one. Urban Myers. 100% to be on Shit Mountain. He might like touching some shit too, so.
Yeah, I don't think anybody I don't think any Duvalites would argue you on that. No. Coach, what would say you?
You know, I don't like quitters. You know, obviously we hit that with Andrew Luck. The other thing I don't like is crybabies. And the most tragic thing to happen in the Jacksonville Jaguars organization is to watch Mark Brunell go on ESPN and cry about some balls being slightly inflated. I mean, that you want to talk about just one of the most tragic things. I mean, Andrew Luck didn't cry. He might have been a little upset about leaving, but he didn't get up there and cry about I took too many hits. He did leave it on the field. Give him that. He quit, but he didn't cry about it. I mean, Mark Brunell. I mean, you go on there. Oh, the ball is a travesty. Oh God, get over yourself. So yeah, put Mark Brunell up there. Crybabies not belonging in football.
You're a fucking monster. You know that? Jesus. And Andrew Luck did cry in his little retirement.
Hey,
My
it's because he
neck hurt.
cared. He cared. Okay.
All the more reason for him to be on there.
Oh my God. I'm not gonna listen to this anymore. Evil, make me even more mad. Who do you put up there?
Oh, it has to be the most overrated running back of all time, Fred Taylor. I'm just kidding. I wanted that.
Fragile Fred.
Fragile
You
Fred.
almost
No.
you almost saw me quit this podcast midstream.
No, really, realistically though, I got a couple. I think, and they're both players. I think my favorite player that's ever come out of Jacksonville, legitimately my favorite player ever come out of Jacksonville, Jalen Ramsey. The way he left you all was great. Loved it. Set you all back in the secondary a little bit. But realistically, someone who you thought was going to be great, thought was going to be really good, and turned out to be absolute waste of space. Yeah. I think Justin Blackman, right? He's a guy who I thought, man, this guy, oh man, he's going to make me nervous as a Colts fan. No, I'm good. So again, I think his time on the field, I think, what was he, the 5th overall pick? And he only played in like 20, 25 games, something like that. I don't know.
Something like
so
that.
I think, no, that's got to be. And I think he had less than 100 receptions his entire career. So.
Evil, it's funny because you started off like, guys that haven't made it with the Jags you thought going to be good. My name, I thought about like Kalavion Chason and Matt Jones and CJ Henderson. And, I'm sorry, I'm rambling there. My bad, Swagger.
All right. Again, one of those guys that I will not stand the slander of is Matt Jones, the Great White Hope, before there was a Great White Hope. When he wasn't high or getting in trouble for cocaine, he was a stud. Tennessee Titans. Who sits on Shit Mountain Rushmore for the Tennessee Titans there, Doc?
Okay, I went pretty simple here, and I went with the 8th overall pick that was supposed to be a franchise quarterback, Jake Locker.
You took mine.
It's simple. It's easy. He only played 4 seasons, could not stay healthy, and I looked it up, his stats, 22 touchdowns. Is that right? 22 interceptions and 27 touchdowns. So almost the same amount of interceptions as touchdowns. So he deserves to be on Mount Rushmore, Shit Mountain.
That's a good pick. That was my pick as well, for sure.
Yep.
I'll go with who I was going to do as my second place guy, Albert Hainsworth. What a piece of human garbage Albert Hainsworth turned out to be, and it all started when he was wearing that blue Tennessee Titans uniform, stomping at that dude's face in the Dallas and Tennessee game, and then he goes over to Washington, and he just that play. One of the worst plays I've ever seen in NFL history is when Michael Vick is scrambling around for the Eagles, and Albert Hainsworth's fat ass is just laying there like, hopefully he'll get tackled soon. And I know that wasn't in a Tennessee Titans uniform, but that's where it started. So Albert Hainsworth is my pick for the Titans to be on Shit Mountain Rushmore. Coach.
Jake Locker, I think, is a great pick. A lot of people would remember him, from the last 10 years. But there is definitely a more recent first-round selection that epitomizes the utter trash that is the Titan organization. Isaiah Wilson, the offensive lineman from Georgia, drafted in 2020. First-round pick, 29th overall. Titans wanted to pick a couple of the solid offensive linemen that were in that draft. All of them decent, pretty good offensive linemen now. So they reached. Okay, that's that draft. We were all sitting in our homes watching Roger Gill make his selections from his basement. Isaiah Wilson, he never played for the Titans. They cut him after a year. And then he went on to try to have a rap career. I tried to go find the SoundCloud recordings of his rap music. It's awful. It's terrible. It's some of the worst I've ever heard. And I'm a white man that lives in Northern Virginia, so you know that it's bad. Okay, I have no telling of what good music is, but I can tell you this is bad. Okay, he went to the Giants to their practice squad. He didn't play there, and they cut him. He's out of football. You draft a guy in the first round in 2020 in the last 5 years, and that dude never plays for you. That's awful. That dude. belongs on Shit Mountain Rushmore for the Tennessee Titans.
Good pull there, Coach. All right, Evil. Finish
So
us up.
I was all prepared. This will be quick because I was all prepared to talk about Jake Locker. He was my pick, like all of us. So I think that's a unanimous pick for the Mount Shipmore, right? So congrats to us. But since I got to keep talking, I love the sound of my own voice too. I think the best summary, at least as a Colts fan, when I look at the Tennessee Titans, what comes to mind? I think of this guy in Texans, big monster, 6'7"-ish, got a helmet in his hand, and just starts to beat the shit out of somebody on the floor. Who's that guy again? That's right, Cortland Finnegan. He is my favorite. That is my favorite picture of the Tennessee Titans. So while it's not necessarily a horrible player, that is I believe that picture of Andre Johnson and Cortland Finnegan belongs up on Mount Rushmore.
That's part of that whole interaction is that Cortland Finnegan got up like he won. He's like clapping his hands and everything.
Got his ass whooped.
You got rocked, bro. Not even close. Not even close. Shit Mountain Rushmore would be a tourist destination, obviously. So I thought it'd be fun this week. And this doesn't necessarily have to be in the NFL. But who do you think deserves an honorary mention of maybe taking a visit and scaling Shit Mountain this week? Like, for instance, my pick for honorary Shit Mountain member of the week is Nico Harrison. If you don't know who Nico Harrison is, he is the GM of the Dallas Mavericks. And that dude, I'm surprised they haven't shot him in Dallas yet for all the boneheaded things he's doing. The Mavericks had 7 players warming up for their latest game. 7 players. Like, obviously they have more, but nobody's warming up. That they're done. They need to get that GM out of there. All right. I'm sure he'll quit and then end up on one of our teams at some point. Just try his hand in the NFL. But Nico Harrison would be my honorary visitor of Shit Mountain this week. Anybody else got another one?
I got one for you. I'm going to go to the world of hockey. Guy you guys probably don't know if people don't watch hockey. His name's Mikko Rantanen. Pretty big player for the Colorado Avalanche. Gets traded a couple weeks before the trade deadline. Goes to the Carolina Hurricanes, who are looking to try to get a big player. That dude's on the team for like 3 weeks, 13 games, 2 goals, 6 points. Not great for a guy that's top 10 in the league in scoring. Won't sign extension, so the Hurricanes have to trade him to Dallas because he won't sign. I'll tell you what, if I'm a Hurricanes fan, I am freaking livid at Mikko Rantanen, who, I don't know if I'll sign with the Avalanche. I think I need over $14 million. So they trade him to Carolina and they say, hey, we'll give you like $13 million. I don't think I need more than that. I think you need to trade me. So they trade him to Dallas. Guess what? He signs for $12 million, which is what Colorado and Carolina, we're both are offering him. So you know what? That guy, get him the hell out of here. Mikko Rantanen, put him on Shit Mountain Rushmore for the week.
I think while we're talking about people to visit, I think very recently, there was a confrontation at a Lakers-Knicks game, and who I think belonged most on this is someone who just stood there and witnessed everything, because he sure as shit didn't do anything. Stephen A. Smith, I see you. You belong on this mountain too right now, because you didn't do a damn thing to stand up for yourself when you had some little crybaby LeBron yell at your face because you were talking bad about his son, who's also a professional athlete, by the way. So that's Stephen A. Smith. I expected more out of you. I'm not your biggest fan, but now I'm definitely not even close.
Man, now he's never going to come on this podcast.
Oh, man.
Doc, anybody for you?
Nope.
Love it.
If you'll learn, Doc's the sweetheart of the group. He doesn't like to hate on too many people. We're just 4 guys here. We have our expert opinions on our AFC South teams, but we want to hear from you. We want to know who you would put on Shit Mountain Rushmore. So you can hit us up on all of our socials, because you're obviously following them if you're listening to this podcast, because they are gold. Evil, where can they find us on social media to tell us all about it?
That's a great question, Bob Lee Swagger. Depending where you're listening to this now, you're either on our Spotify channel or you're on our YouTube channel, both of which is at Kings of Shit Mountain, which is also, ironically and coincidentally, the same handle on our Instagram page. So feel free to tag us, and you never know, maybe one day we can have you on here too, talking all this shit. But speaking of Instagram, and social media and my love and respect, I like to provide a little update. We've had one full episode. We've increased our social media intake by infinity. We went from 0 followers to, I think, 48.
Wow.
And I also want to give a shout out to a couple very popular, very important social media pages out there. I did a little bit of work trying to get some momentum going. I reached out to several fan pages, about 25 fan pages, about 5 or 6 of each team, and I heard back from a couple. First and foremost, the Houston Stressins, great guy, awesome, respect to you.
Heck yeah.
And thank you for sharing our pages. We appreciate you. We'll do the same. Another guy that we heard back from, Colts Cove. Another guy liking our stuff. I appreciate you. Any guy. I do have some disappointing things, though. I haven't heard back from any Titans fan pages, mostly because I can't find that many. The second, same thing with the Jaguars. There's a few out there. I see that they read my messages, and they must be typing something back, but they never send me anything.
Okay. Well, we're illiterate, number one. Okay. Number two, we're all contemplating life's existence as Jags fans and why we do what we do. So they have a lot on their plate.
And then finally, I did get word back from one other Colts fan page, but apparently we were too mean.
So you're telling me that they're quitting on us? Huh. Funny how that works out.
Yeah. That's the social media update for the week.
Couple more things to close us out here. First of all, insert awesome music here. 'Tis the season for March Madness. We here at Kings of Shit Mountain, we're sports fans. We love us some college basketball. But what we love even more is brackets. So join us next time when we give our sneak peek of the bracket of completely random things. That's the bracket of completely random things. All right, are you going to see the Loch Ness Monster go up against a B-52 bomber? Possibly. What about stone floor mats fighting against long candle wicks? You don't know. We're going to put these votes out to social media. You're going to vote on it. You're going to tell us about it. We'll go over the matchups. We'll tell you what we want to see. We'll defend each team. But we'll go week by week to live within the holiday season that is March Madness. Because, boys, let's be honest. If you're a sports fan, no matter what sport you root for, you love some March Madness.
Absolutely. Nothing better.
Any final thoughts here?
Swagger's useless fact of the day.
I have a random fact here before we close out. There are 4 national anthems of countries in the world that have no lyrics. Can any of you guess one? You only get one guess. It's 197 countries.
I am going to say Brunei.
No. Good guess, though. Anybody else?
I'm going to say Germany because of the whole World War II thing.
No, they still like that Erica song up there. Doc?
Ghana.
No. Good guess, though. Good guess. Your 4 national anthems without any words: San Marino, Kosovo, Herzegovina, whatever. It's made up. Basically Narnia. And then this one surprised me. Spain. Spain does not have any words in their national anthem.
How about that? I learned something today.
It's because the guys who were writing the song had their jaws to the floor every time a woman walked by.
This has been Swagger's useless fact of the day.
Oh my God. Anyways, we're getting out of here on that. I've got to go put the frozen bag of peas on my nether regions. So we thank you so much for joining us here at the Kings of Shit Mountain. Spread the word, follow the socials, tell your friends, and then it's only going to get better from here. And when you think that your team is bad, just remember, it could always be worse. You could be rooting for one of these teams. Thank you, guys. Peace.